So you're on a weight loss journey. Should you get on the scale or not get on the scale? Let's talk about it. So when it comes to weight loss, there is so much information out there and so much controversy about the information out there. So a lot of the controversy out there in terms of losing weight is the scale. Should you get on it or not get on it, and why? So in this video, I'm going to talk about the scale in terms of it being a tool on a weight loss journey, and I'm going to share my perspective, and maybe it'll help you make a decision if it's something you want to use as a tool on your weight loss journey. So if you're on a weight loss journey, regardless of the method that you're using to lose weight, I'm sure everybody's heard you should get on the scale or don't get on the scale. Yeah. And a lot of people are really outspoken about whether or not you should get on the scale or not. And so I'm going to break it down from my perspective, and then hopefully this information will help you make a decision of whether or not you should implement the scale as a tool on your weight loss journey. So let's talk about it. So what is the scale? The scale is a tool. It's a measuring device. It's a reflection of statistics. It's unbiased. I see the scale as like a computer. You put information into it and it spits information out. So what is the scale not? Well, it's not the boogeyman. It's not mean or unfair. It's not your friend or your enemy. It's unbiased. It doesn't have an emotional connection to you. However, many of us have had an emotional connection to it. Yeah? So let's talk about this emotional connection to the scale. I know for me personally, I have basically been on some form of weight loss journey or dieting program probably back to when I was 13. And until now, I currently follow alternate day fasting, which is a protocol. I finally decided to challenge my belief system around the scale, my emotional connections to it, and get a deeper understanding of what was going on with me with the scale in terms of all the information and controversy floating around. So before I decided to implement alternate day fasting as a protocol for my life, and if you're interested in learning more about alternate day fasting, check out my other videos. I'm documenting my journey around that. But when I made that decision, I decided to go all in and really face some hard stuff. I didn't want to not succeed at alternate day fasting. So I did a lot of work around the different things that had caused me to fail in the past. And one of the things was the scale, the emotional connection I had to this thing. And it was not acceptable for me anymore. And the scale used to be a huge trigger for me. If I would get on the scale and it didn't reflect to me the numbers that I wanted to see, it would cause me sometimes to bail on whatever program I was doing. And I was tired of that. I had a fear of it. And so when I decided to do alternate day fasting, I decided I was going to face this fear. I was going to get to the root of what this thing had this power over me. And I believe what I started to uncover was all the emotional connection and all the belief systems that I had bought into about the scale and other people's opinions and the whole thing. What happened for me was when I decided to I started to research alternate day fasting, I had no idea what my starting weight. I knew I felt like crap. I knew things weren't working, but I didn't, I was in that process of figuring it all out. Well, when I stepped on the scale and it reflected to me 189.4 pounds, I was so shocked. but I sat with that shock and I thought, how in whatever did I get here? I had no idea I was that. So at that point, I decided to break the emotional connection I had to the scale. It was, I sat down and I thought, okay, it's just showing me a number. It's showing me a piece of information I got on the scale, and it's saying, here's the information that you want. And when I changed my perspective into seeing it as a measure, a tool to measure, just like, other people use taking their body measurements, or they look in the mirror, or they take progress pics, or they use their favorite jeans as a gauge. That's all it is. It's just a tool to gauge where you're at. And because I decided to get on the scale the morning of when I break my fast, so I fast every other day. So I fast, eat, alternate day fasting. And it was really hard for me at the beginning because, my weight was fluctuating, and that's normal. Our weight does fluctuate. But I felt that looking at that every other day and working through that was taking my power back. I was using the reflection of the numbers on the scale. I decided to use it to my benefit. I decided to, look at it as a gauge to see if it went up. Oh, what could I look at? If it went down, it was a very detached perspective for the first time in my life. If you're in the process of deciding whether, and if you're on a weight loss journey, if you want to implement the scale or not, and the reasons for yourself is to get really clear on why. So if you decide that you want to implement the scale as a tool to gauge and track your progress, or to look at what's not working, is to get really clear on your why. Same thing is if you don't want to use the scale. I say, ask yourself why. Face those things, whether it's a trigger. I hear a lot of people say, oh, if you get on the scale, it's going to trigger you and you're going to fail, or you'll binge, or anything like that. And so I can't stress enough how important it is to look at the whole thing head on, face it, understand, go really deep. What triggers you about the numbers on the scale? What emotional connection do you have? What belief system have you bought into? And is it your personal belief system? Because once you go there, once you get super solid on what the scale is and what it means to you, and is it a tool that you want to implement? Maybe you don't care about data like that. I love data. I love tracking information, but it's not for everybody. And then once you get solid with whatever decision you make, you won't get rattled by the controversy. I've chosen to share my journey out to the world, and I prepared myself for general feedback or unsolicited information, because that's kind of what happens on the internet. And I came to a place of peace with the fact that people will judge or shame or whatever goes on in society these days. And and this isn't just for the scale, but from my life journey, is I knew how important it was, in order to be successful and be solid in the decisions that I was making around all the components of my weight loss journey, is that when people come and they say, you shouldn't get on the scale because da 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 da. And in order to not let that touch a nerve with you, it's important to understand that when that kind of thing happens, it's generally a statement of that other person having their own emotional connection to the scale, And oftentimes seeing somebody else doing that is a trigger for them. It makes them uncomfortable. And basically what they're saying is, you shouldn't do that because it triggers me. And so in order for me to be comfortable or safe, you shouldn't do it either. So it's understanding where that comes from in other people. It's a projection of their fear onto you. So like anything that's building success, it's important to implement tools that help to gauge that. It's hard to hear or see negative information to receive, but it's when we receive that negative or constructive evaluation that we can use that to move forward. And really that's all the scale is. It's just reflecting to you. So whatever you decide to use, whether to use the scale or not use the scale, or whatever measuring device you decide to get really solid, get really, really solid, face your stuff head on. And yeah, so I just want to encourage everybody who's on this journey with doing whatever it is that works for you. I sincerely send blessings and wish you all the success on your journey.